There are nights when we lie still, staring at the ceiling, and it feels as if the whole world is asleep, leaving only ourselves, awake inside a dream with no exit. Maybe you have felt that way too.
It's not insomnia, but a mind that cannot find a place to rest.
Part of you is still running, even though the body stopped long ago. Welcome to Lucid Dream, Sleep and Science Stories, where stories don't try to lull you to sleep, but gently open small doors inside the mind. There, we don't seek sleep, we seek peace within our own dream. In the long night, with no stage lights, there is only the breath and the small inner voice, whispering the things we once knew, but forgot. No one will come to save you. Not tomorrow, not when the perfect moment appears. The turning point in your life will only arrive when you stop scattering your energy outward and begin turning inward. Life truly changes only when we stop waiting. It's not that the outside world must change, but that the gaze within must be awakened. Freedom does not lie in how many choices you have, but in the ability to see yourself clearly amid 1,000 noises. When you realize no one can come to rescue you, you begin to understand. Salvation never existed outside. It lives in each mindful breath of your own. Tonight we search for no one. We only seek a part of ourselves again, once strong and once tired. Let every sound, every word here be a gentle wave that touches the mind, carrying you through the hazy layers of thought to a place where strength needs no display and silence is the language of the soul. In the hush of night, there are thoughts that don't need advice, only to be heard. In that place, we do not try to change the world. We only want to understand ourselves a little better. Because perhaps every awakening journey begins with a very small question. If no one comes to save me, what will I do with the rest of my life? In the hush of night, there are thoughts that don't need advice, only to be heard. In that place, we do not try to change the world. We only want to understand ourselves a little better. And perhaps, precisely in those moments that seem empty, a deeper part of us begins to wake.
Not with a thunderclap, but with a very small feeling, like when you suddenly stop scrolling through endless feeds and realize
you've forgotten what it feels like to simply be still. We spend our whole lives running
from fear,
running towards success, running through the noise and calling that living. But at some point you stop and see a stranger in the mirror. Everything you once wanted, had, or strived for suddenly no longer brings the same meaning. That emptiness, many people fear it, but sometimes it is the invitation to awaken.
Not every moment of being lost means going astray.
Sometimes it is the only moment when we can see the true path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be."
Be one, not argument, not waiting for recognition, but simply becoming.
Quietly, steadily, silently, like a seed sprouting in dark soil. Awakening is not loud. It does not come with fireworks or dazzling lights. It is simply a deep breath and a small whisper in the heart. I've had enough. I want to live differently. And when that sentence appears, everything begins to change, even if nothing outside has changed yet. Because true change always begins in silence. In the moment you stop blaming, stop waiting, and are left alone with yourself. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom is not the ability to go anywhere. Freedom is being unbound wherever you are, not bound by expectations, by comparisons, by the should be this way that the world has planted in us for so long. When you stop looking for salvation from outside, you begin to see power in the smallest things: an unhurried breath, a quiet morning, a word that requires no answer. Awakening does not come once. It is the 1,000 times you return, each time a little more. And each time the world softens a little more. Tonight you may still be awake, but perhaps that is a sign your mind is trying to speak to itself. And if you listen long enough, you will realize what you have been searching for all along never really left. Soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. If so, let your soul be colored by gentle thoughts, tender reflections, and the faith that, when the night is deep enough, light will come, no rush required. Between the night's slowing breaths, we pass through bewilderment
and enter the first chapter of freedom to build ourselves with our own hands.
Amid the slowing breaths of the night, we pass through confusion and step into the first chapter of freedom, to build ourselves with our own hands. There is a simple truth, but few are brave enough to face it. No one else will do it for us.
Not the world, not a lover, not luck.
Only us, in silence, laying down one brick at a time, rebuilding who we are. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Death is not what's frightening. What's frightening is living as if we had endless time. We often wait for opportunity, for recognition, for the perfect moment. But life doesn't send invitations.
It simply slips away second by second.
Each day that passes is not time lost. It's a part of ourselves dissolving, and one day we realize that what we called getting ready has consumed our youth, erased countless chances, and sometimes even erased our belief that we can start again. The truth is, there is no right moment. There is only this moment, and the way we choose to act within it. Discipline is not a chain, it's the bridge that leads to freedom. When you choose to do what's right, even without excitement, when you keep promises to yourself, even when no one's watching, that's when you're laying the foundation for a life built on order. Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Every small action you take today is a vote for the person you are becoming. And every moment you delay is another vote for the weaker version of yourself. No one is born strong. The strong are simply those who were once weak, but refused to stay that way. Perhaps the hardest part is not starting, but continuing when no one sees. Because real change always happens in the dark, where no applause sounds,
no praise is given, and no one knows your name. And yet,
in that silence, little by little, you become the person you once admired. Tonight, as you sit in stillness, don't dwell on what you haven't achieved. Think of the smallest thing you can do right now. One mindful breath, one unfinished task completed, one promise kept. Because it is precisely these small things that gather into the greatest treasure you'll ever have. Trust in yourself. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years.
Death hangs over you.
While you live, while it is in your power, be good. Marcus Aurelius, don't wait for dawn to start living. Begin now, while in the night, while the world is still asleep. This is when the awakened plant their seeds. And one day, when light returns, you'll smile, realizing the greatest transformations always begin in silence. Don't wait for dawn to start living. Begin now, while in the night, while the world is still asleep. That's when the awakened plant their seeds. There are nights when we feel exhausted, not from what we haven't done, but from all the times we broke promises to ourselves. You know that feeling, seeing the goal, knowing exactly what needs to be done and still curling up, waiting for tomorrow. And then tomorrow becomes today again. Procrastination doesn't just steal time, it quietly erodes your self-respect. Each time you say, maybe tomorrow, you're really saying, I don't trust you anymore. There is no noise louder than the cracking of inner trust.
It doesn't scream, but it weighs heavy.
Heavy like a nameless sadness when you lie still, breathing slow and whisper, why am I so weak? But if you're hearing this, know that you're still here. You still have a chance to begin again. No one can turn back time, but anyone can change direction. Right now. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. We are not short on time. We've simply forgotten how to live it." You don't need a grand beginning, just an honest moment.
A breath that says, enough.
I want to live differently. Because you will never be ready. You just have to begin while still unready. And that's what makes all the difference. There's something special about people who stay consistent. They are not different from you. They just listen to their promises louder than their fear. Fear doesn't vanish. It stays in the chest, in the throat, in every slow step. But they keep walking because they know movement is the only way to keep faith alive. And so day after day, they carve a new self from the ruins of their old weakness. First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus, there is no magic in discipline.
Only repetition.
But repetition is the quiet miracle. It turns fragility into strength and the temporary into essence. Waking up 5 minutes earlier, finishing a task though no one praises you, choosing silence over explanation. These are the bricks that build the steady version of you. And one day, when you look in the mirror, you'll see there was no miracle. You simply never gave up. In a world that moves too fast,
acting in silence is a form of rebellion.
No noise, no proof, just doing what's right and letting results speak. Self-mastery isn't about being rigid. It's about knowing yourself deeply enough to tell when to be firm and when to be gentle. No one gets it perfect, but each time you return to that path, you strengthen the belief that you can trust yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The peace and happiness in your life come from the thoughts you choose to keep." And once you've learned to trust yourself, every compliment, every recognition from the outside suddenly becomes lighter. You no longer need to prove anything. What remains is only one thing, the quiet peace of someone who knows that no matter what happens, they are still walking in the right direction. In the still night, if you hear your heartbeat steady and calm, that's the sound of a life being rebuilt. No need for anyone to see.
No need for anyone to understand.
All that matters is that you know you're moving toward the light. And when sleep finally arrives, let it hold you as a reward for a day fully lived, even if it was only one small, steady step. In the quiet of the night, if you can hear your heart beating steadily, that's the sound of a life being rebuilt. But sometimes that rebuilding doesn't come from peace. It comes from the cracks. We often think pain is the enemy, that when we fail, life is somehow against us. But if you look closer, you'll see sometimes pain is simply doing its job, waking you up from what you're no longer meant to be. Maybe you once tried to hold on to a person, to a job, to an old dream that no longer belonged to you. And life took it away, sometimes gently, sometimes brutally.
And among those broken pieces, you learned something. Not every loss is an ending.
Some things leave just to return you to yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Obstacles are not dead ends, they are directions. But you only see that once you've grown quiet enough to look back. Pain in its purest form does not come to destroy. It comes to cleanse. Do you remember your first failure? The first time you felt like you weren't enough while the world kept spinning as if nothing happened? In that moment, maybe you thought, "I'm nothing." But that very moment was the foundation of the strength growing quietly inside you. No wisdom is born from comfort.
No depth ever comes from ease.
What makes a person deep are the things that once brought them to their knees. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Seneca, the mind, like the body, needs resistance to grow. Without pain, there is no resilience. Without loss, there is no gratitude. Failure isn't the conclusion. It's just the silence between two chapters, where your truest self is rewritten. Some people are crushed forever by their pain, but others use that same pain as a stepping stone to rise again. The difference isn't in what happened, but in what meaning they give to it. A wound can be a reason to close your heart, or a doorway to understand it more deeply. The difference lies in this, whether you choose to stay in the wound or walk through it. And when you walk through, you are no longer the same. You become someone who can stand in the storm and still speak with calm. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Seneca, without adversity, we never truly know who we are, for only through challenge does our true nature reveal itself, just as gold shines brightest after the fire. Pain is the teacher we never wish to meet, but it carries the only lesson that can truly change our lives. Tonight, if there's a wound still living in your heart, don't rush to push it away. Let it sit with you, like an old friend who once made you cry, but also taught you how to love. Because when the light hits the cracks, that's where it finds a way in. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi no pain is meaningless.
No failure exists just to break you.
Every scar, when seen with compassion, becomes a map of growth, and when you can look back at your old wounds with gratitude instead of resentment, that's when you begin to understand the quiet kind of strength. When the light hits the cracks, that's where it finds a way in. Maybe it's only after you've truly lost something that you understand the value of simply being here.
None of us walk through life unscarred.
Some hide their wounds. Others learn to make peace with them, to weave them into who they are, and only when they can smile with their scars do we know they've truly healed. Failure, when you look long enough, stops being an enemy. It becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, you don't see anyone else, only yourself, stripped of illusion and excuse. And in that moment, you see what calm days never show, that you're still alive.
And you can still begin again. The greater the difficulty,
the more glory in surmounting it. Epictetus. The greatest things are never born in happiness. They sprout from solitude, from fear, from moments when you thought you'd lost it all. In those moments, the soul is refined, the will is forged, and the old self, weak, self-pitying, dependent, is destroyed.
making way for the new you. Every time you endure, every time you rise again.
Every time you whisper, "I'm okay," with a heavy heart, you are not just surviving. You are quietly reborn as a strange kind of strength that only comes after you've been weak. Because only after you've fallen do you learn how to stand without needing to prove anything. Only after being lonely do you realize silence is also a kind of peace. Pain teaches humility. It strips away the illusion of being unbreakable and gives you the truth that you are strong enough to accept your limits. What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. Tim Ferriss, perhaps. What we fear most is not failure itself, but seeing ourselves clearly. Because when you truly look, every disguise falls away, leaving only the raw, fragile, but most honest part of who you are. Sometimes loss is not punishment. It's life's subtle way of guiding you to leave, to walk away from places where you no longer grow, from people you've stayed with too long, from versions of yourself that no longer fit who you're becoming. We call it failure, but really, it's destiny shifting direction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Pain doesn't come from events themselves, but from the meaning we attach to them. And if we can change the meaning, we can change the way we live. Tonight, if something is weighing on your heart, try not to fight it. Let it pass through you like a wave that touches the shore and then pulls back. No need to push it away, no need to hold it still, because after every wave, the sound becomes smoother. And maybe so will your heart. Sometimes you don't heal by moving on, you heal by sitting still and feeling it. Unknown healing isn't forgetting. It's finding the calm to look back without trembling. When you can speak of the past in a quiet voice, that's when pain has finished its work. In the end, failure takes nothing from you. It simply returns you to the part of yourself you left sleeping. And when you can finally see that self, bare but shining, that's the moment you no longer need to prove your strength to the world. Because deep down, you already know, failure doesn't destroy us. It only forges us into something unshakable. But there is another force, quiet, painless, that slowly wears down the soul. We call it distraction.
No one hears it coming.
There's no alarm, no visible loss. Only day by day, our focus drains, drop by drop. So gently, so slowly that we hardly even notice. One morning, you pick up your phone just for a few minutes. But those minutes turn into hours. Those hours turn into a long, weary day. And that day vanishes into the feeling of, I did nothing, yet I'm exhausted. Distraction doesn't rob us with violence. It lulls us with comfort. It speaks in a gentle voice. Just a little bit more. Just one more scroll. Just this time. And all those just a little bits pile up into a lifetime of things we never truly finished. Seneca once warned, it is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. Life isn't short. We simply pour it into things that don't belong to us. Years that could have been filled with creation, with learning, with real experience, are swallowed whole by mindless taps and endless swipes. The world no longer kills us with war, but with constant distraction.
Every notification, every scroll, every comparison is a tiny cut into our piece. Where the attention goes, energy flows. James Redfield, attention is the most precious currency of this century, and we're spending it more carelessly than ever.
We're pulled into the past, pushed toward the future, and forget how to stay in this moment, the only place where life truly exists. So try this. Pause. Don't open your phone. Don't do anything. Just sit and listen to your heartbeat. Listen and ask yourself, beneath all this noise, Do you still recognize yourself? Distraction doesn't just steal time, it steals you and makes you forget what once made you feel alive. Forget the sound of silence. Forget how it feels to touch the world without needing to record it. We grow used to living through screens, measuring joy in likes and defining our worth in numbers. The world grows louder and we, though still young, feel as tired as those who've lived 2 lives. Beware the barrenness of a busy life. Socrates, perhaps. That's the most terrifying thing of all, a kind of emptiness disguised as busyness. When your hands never stop moving, but your heart hasn't gone anywhere. Have you noticed? When you stare into that blue light, your eyes are open, but your mind starts to fade. Distraction is the most delicate addiction. It doesn't hurt, but it numbs you. And then one day you realize your memories feel faint, not because you forgot, but because you were never truly there. Everything passed by too fast, turning life into a blur of fragments. And when you finally see that, is it too late?
No, because awareness is the beginning of awakening. Tonight, try putting everything down. Turn off the screen.
Set the phone aside.
And just sit there with the silence. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, raw. You'll hear echoes you've ignored for years.
But if you stay long enough, you'll find beneath all that noise a vast open space, your real mind. It's still there, waiting for you to return. You will never find peace of mind until you listen to your heart. George Michael, distraction takes away your stillness. But the moment you turn back, stillness comes rushing in, like an old friend who never truly left. And in that quiet reunion, you finally understand, and the happiness isn't about having more, but about needing less of what never mattered. Happiness isn't about having more, but about needing less of what never mattered. And perhaps that's what we've forgotten. In this world, everything fights for your attention. From the glow of your screen to the ping of a message, from ads to even your own worries. Every second you look outward is a second you drift away from within.
No one ever told us this. Attention is life energy.
And wherever you place that energy, that's where your life belongs. If you give it all to the world outside, you dissolve into the noise. If you turn it inward, you start to hear yourself again. Seneca once said, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. When we are everywhere, in news feeds, in conversations, in other people's stories, we are,
in truth, nowhere.
Not in the present, not in our own minds, not in the lives we're actually living. That's why so many feel exhausted without having done anything hard. It's not because they've done too much, it's because they've scattered themselves too thin. Every time you open your phone, you're not just watching, you're trading. Each scroll costs you a little focus, a little calm, a little ability to hear yourself. There's nothing wrong with connection, but it's a quiet tragedy when we forget how to be alone without feeling empty. We fear silence, because in silence, we must face ourselves. But here's the truth. The deepest answers only rise from silence. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you, Anne Lamott Unplug. Not to escape the world, but to reconnect with your soul. Sit down, place your hand on your chest, feel your heartbeat. That small, honest rhythm of life.
That feeling is your way home. The world will never quiet down.
Social media will never stop calling. The news will never stop selling you fear. But you don't have to respond to everything. Real strength lies in selection, not in doing more, but in removing what doesn't serve you. Focus is the sacred ritual of self-mastery. It's not flashy, not fast, not loud, but it rebuilds the fortress within you, the one you can retreat to when the world turns chaotic. Marcus Aurelius once wrote,
"Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. There's no place more peaceful than the one inside you."
no meditation, no music can replace the stillness of simply being at home within yourself. So practice coming back. A little each day. Mute your phone for a few hours. Don't react right away to everything you see. And notice how beautiful it feels to be in charge of your own attention. When we learn where to let our minds rest, we begin to live with intention, no longer chasing everything that drains us, but offering our energy to what truly nourishes us. That isn't a skill, and so it's a form of self-love. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. Simone Weil, attention
It's the most subtle form of kindness.
When you give your full attention to a person, a task, or a moment, you are offering them the most precious thing you have. So choose carefully where you place your heart. And tonight, if the world outside still feels loud, allow yourself to be still. You don't need to go anywhere, just draw inward. Sit quietly in your room. Let your breath lead the way. Let silence wrap itself around every restless thought. This isn't loneliness, it's your way home. There is no place more peaceful than your own soul. Yet in this world, sometimes we are the ones who dare not stay there. We've grown used to seeking validation from outside, measuring our worth by other people's eyes, believing that only when someone recognizes me will I be good enough. But the truth is, real trust doesn't come from them. It comes from the promises you keep to yourself. Each morning, you wake up and choose to do what you once promised, even if it's small.
Even if no one knows, you are casting a vote for the stronger version of yourself.
Conversely, every time you break a promise, every tomorrow, or not ready yet, you chip away a little more at your inner trust. Confidence is not standing in front of a mirror and repeating positive phrases. It is the calm that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. The best way to gain self-confidence is to do what you are afraid to do. Swati Sharma, no one is born confident. It is the result of many small completed actions, each time you choose persistence over postponement. Some people appear as if they were born strong, but look closely. You'll see they are simply those who kept promises to themselves enough times that they no longer need to prove it. True confidence is not loud. It needs no display because it is built from quiet victories, waking up early when you're tired, working while no one watches, choosing silence instead of excuses. This is the discipline of trust. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Stop arguing about who you should be. Just become. Not with words, but with action. Not to be seen, but so that you can see yourself clearly. Each time you do right, though no one praises you, each time you stand tall amidst doubt, each time you choose steadiness over rebellion, that's when confidence is quietly carved into the soul." Self-trust is the first secret of success. Ralph Waldo Emerson, when you trust yourself, you don't need anyone else to tell you you're enough.
Because you already know.
And when you trust, everything else begins to change. Your voice gains steadiness, your eyes gain clarity, even your silence carries weight. Those who trust themselves don't have to speak loudly to be heard. Tonight, if you feel doubt, remember, no one else has the right to define your worth. Everything you need to stand firm has been inside you for a long time. You've only let the world's noise cover it. Now listen again. Beneath the layers of fear, beneath the criticisms, beneath it all, there's a small, gentle, true voice. I am still here, and I still believe in us. Confidence is not I'm not afraid, and confidence is I'm afraid, but I keep going. Because those who step forward despite fear have already won half the battle. Confidence is not I'm not afraid. Confidence is I'm afraid, but I keep going. Perhaps none of us is ever truly ready. Readiness is an illusion, a promise that rarely proves true. Life won't wait until you feel fully confident before it tests you. It's when you move with trembling steps that you become truly strong. We often wait for a special moment. A day we'll wake up and feel ready. But that day never comes, because confidence is not an emotion, it's repeated action amid doubt. Action is the foundational key to all success. Pablo Picasso, every small step you dare to take is a brick that builds firm trust.
Not grand, just real.
Confidence isn't formed in sunlight, but in the dark places where you keep doing things no one sees. There, you and yourself begin to learn to trust each other. When you keep your word to others, they trust you. When you keep your word to yourself, you become unshakable. Each small completed task is a handshake between two versions of you, the one who is living now and the one you are becoming. The more rhythm you keep, the closer those two become, until one day they merge. That is true confidence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Simple to hear, but truly a journey to live by. To live in accordance with what you believe requires inner strength more than any rallying cry. Confidence is not standing above others, but standing true to yourself. It is saying no without guilt. It is remaining silent without feeling small. It is choosing what is kind, even when the world chooses the easy way. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus, confidence and freedom are two sides of the same coin. The more you master yourself, the less you need to control the outside world. When you truly trust yourself, comparison becomes unnecessary. You don't need to look around for proof of your place. You already know where you're headed. Truly confident people are not without doubt. They simply know how to live with doubt and still move forward. They don't wait for inspiration. They create it through consistency. Consistency is the silent prayer of adulthood. Discipline equals freedom. Jocko Willink, confidence isn't the result of luck, it's a byproduct of discipline. When you do what must be done each day, you no longer ask, "Can I do it?" You simply know you will. Because once you've kept enough promises to yourself, doubt becomes unnecessary. Tonight, before you sleep, think of one promise you once broke.
Not to blame yourself, but to start again.
Keep one promise to yourself without witnesses. Do it quietly. Then tomorrow add another, day by day.
Until one day you'll realize you no longer need anyone to tell you you're good enough.
Because you've already proven it to yourself. The moment you start believing in yourself, the world starts believing in you too. Unknown, the world only reflects the trust you've planted inside. And when your inner ground is steady, everything else falls into place. No noise, no proving, just living true, ahead and consistent. The world only reflects the belief you plant within. But what happens when that belief is rooted in other people's eyes? We grow up in a world where approval is treated as proof of worth. Since childhood, we've learned to live in ways that please others. Praised when we obey.
Considered right when we agree. Loved when we don't disappoint.
And slowly, we forget the self who once dared to be different, to act freely, to think in their own way. Approval is a beautiful prison. Inside there's light, a applause, and comfort. But the price is your key to freedom. Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Lao Tzu answer, we live in a loop, trying to impress, trying to please, trying to become someone worthy of love. But the more we try, the further we drift, away from truth, away from peace, away from the self that once felt free. Carl Jung once wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. The one who looks outward dreams. The one who looks inward awakens." Awakening begins the moment we realize no one truly knows who we are. They only know the part we choose to show. And when we stop trying to be understood, we finally begin to understand ourselves. There is a quiet kind of exhaustion, not from work, but from constantly performing. Performing to please, performing to avoid criticism, performing just to be loved. But real love never demands a performance. It accepts you even when you're imperfect. And the irony is, only when you dare to stop seeking approval do you begin to attract what truly belongs to you. When you stop chasing approval, you find peace. Unknown inner peace doesn't come from the world's agreement, but from the harmony within yourself. When you stop chasing validation, you begin to hear your true voice again. Soft, but clear.
Fragile but steady.
It whispers, "I don't need to be understood. I just need to be real." You'll notice, when you no longer live to please others, everything becomes lighter. You start choosing silence over explanations,
Action over proof.
walking away instead of arguing, not because you don't care, but because your heart no longer needs to prove itself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be indifferent to what makes no difference." Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every gaze deserves your attention. Calmness isn't apathy, or it's emotional discernment. Choosing what's worth keeping and letting go of what isn't yours to hold. Letting go of the need for approval isn't closing yourself off. It's opening space for truth to breathe.
No one can live your life. No one can understand every piece of your heart. And that's okay.
Because you were never born to be understood. You were born to experience yourself. Tonight, as you close your eyes, ask yourself a simple question. If no one were watching, would I live differently? If the answer is yes, start there. Begin living for yourself, gently, slowly, but truly. If no one were watching, would I live differently?
A small question, but it can turn your whole life around.
Because most of us aren't truly living, we're performing. We smile at the right times, say what's expected, do what's praised, and we call that stability. But stability can sometimes be another word for surrendering who we are. The truth is, no one but you knows the road you've walked.
No one knows how many times you've had to hold yourself together, how many nights you've stayed silent,
how many times you've had to rebuild from what no one else could see. So why should your worth depend on those who have never lived inside your skin? You wouldn't worry so much about what others think of you if you realized how seldom they do. Eleanor Roosevelt, most of the time, people are too busy thinking about themselves. They don't look at you as much as you think. The gaze you fear is often just a reflection of your own self-judgment. Letting go of the need for approval doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It simply means removing the conditions for love. True love, whether from others or from yourself, only exists when it requires nothing in return. When you dare to live honestly,
even if others don't understand, even if they turn away,
even if you stand alone, that is the power of inner freedom. Seneca once said, "He who seeks wisdom is wise already. He who thinks he has found it is a fool. The one who keeps searching, even without certainty, is already wise. The one who believes they are fully accepted is often the one losing themselves." You don't have to stop searching, just change where you search. Not outward anymore, but inward. One day you'll realize peace isn't when everyone understands you. It's when you no longer need them to.
It's a quiet kind of peace. Not the "I don't need anyone" kind, but the "I don't need to prove anything" kind. You still love.
You still care. You still listen. But from a steadier place, where your being isn't shaken by outside eyes. Be yourself.
Everyone else is already taken. Oscar Wilde. Maybe you've tried to become 100 different people. The good child, the kind friend, the likable one, the successful one.
But in the end, you only find true peace when you're finally yourself. With all your cracks, your mistakes, and your unfinished dreams.
That is real freedom. Tonight, when you look into the mirror, don't search for enoughness.
Just look deep into your reflection and whisper softly, "I accept you," even when you're not perfect. Because the most beautiful thing about being human is not perfection, but the effort to be honest day by day. When you stop needing to be accepted, every other door begins to open. Not because the world has changed, but because your energy has, from seeking to creating, from pleasing to being genuine, from trying to be loved to simply loving. And in that quiet transformation, you'll realize you never needed approval to shine.
You just needed the courage to be your own light.
When you stop needing to be accepted, you are no longer governed by the world. And that's when you begin to hear yourself. This world is loud. Notifications, messages, reminders, news, judgments, fake laughter. Everything pulls us outward until silence feels like a luxury. The irony is, well, it is precisely in silence that we find the answers to all that noise. There is a kind of noise that doesn't come from outside, but from inside the mind. It's the small voice that keeps whispering, "Am I enough? What do they think? Is someone comparing me?"
That voice doesn't kill you in an instant.
It drains you day by day. And then one evening, when you sit very still, everything falls quieter, and you realize there is an inner space far wider than you imagined. Seneca said, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. The most precious things aren't out there somewhere.
They're inside.
We simply can't see them because we're too busy chasing the sounds of the world." Silence doesn't mean doing nothing. Silence is an active choice, a decision to come home, to stop in the middle of the whirlwind and choose to listen.
Listen to the breath. Listen to the heartbeat.
Listen to thoughts quieting down. Listen even to the fear that rises when you have nothing left to distract you from yourself. And then, in that hush, a small miracle happens. You begin to hear the truth. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. Ram Dass silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is the space where awareness is born. When the outside calms, the inside brightens. When the world's voice falls silent, the soul's voice begins to speak. Some people fear silence, because in silence, there's nowhere left to hide. Everything we avoid shows up, nameless fears, unhealed wounds. But this is not punishment. It is an invitation, a gentle call to sit down and touch yourself without judgment, without running away. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. There is no place more peaceful than your soul. No soundtrack, no crowd, no outside space can match the stillness of inner acceptance. Silence is the cradle of strength. It is neither showy nor impulsive, yet it holds you immovable in the middle of chaos. When you truly touch silence, you realize you don't need anything extra to be enough. You only need to shed the excess. And when enough is removed, what remains is the real. That real thing needs no words because it simply is presence. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. Unknown tonight, try sitting in the dark. No music, no phone, no one beside you, just you and your breath. At first the mind will clamor, then it will slow,
Then it will still.
and in that moment you will hear the smallest sound of life, your own yes, the proof that you exist. Silence is not empty, it is full of answers. But the most beautiful thing about silence is that it doesn't require removing yourself from life to exist. You can sit in a noisy cafe and still be at peace. You can be surrounded by hurried voices yet feel your heart move slowly like an underground river. You can be working, driving, replying to messages, and deep inside there can still be an untouchable quiet. We often think peace is something to pursue, but actually peace is what remains when everything else has fallen away. It is not a reward.
It is a nature.
Like the deep layer of a lake, the wind stirs the surface, the depths remain still. Outside you may be busy, but inside there is a place untouched by time. That place is home, your soul sitting still, watching everything pass without judgment. Seneca said, "To be calm is the highest achievement of the self." Calmness is the highest attainment of the self. Not because you don't feel pain, but because you know pain is only a visitor. Inner silence helps you distinguish what is you and what is merely a passing wave. When you realize you are the lake, not the ripple, fear grows small. Within you there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself. Hermann Hesse's silence is not avoidance. It is returning to the house within where you can come back whenever you need and be yourself, unjudged, unmanipulated, without the need to perform. There you see everything as it is. Those who love you, those who leave, those who stay, all just waves on the same water. Inner silence does not separate us from the world.
It makes us love the world more.
Because when you are no longer swept away by noise, you finally see that every sound, rain, a voice, a footstep is part of the music of being. You only need enough silence to listen. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events."
Realize this and you will find strength. Power isn't about controlling the world.
It's about keeping your mind steady amid it. You don't have to stop the noise. You only need to hear it with stillness. And then something magical happens. The noise doesn't disappear, but it no longer has power over you. A person who attains inner silence no longer lives to react, but to observe. No longer to win, but to understand. No longer to be loved, but to be love. That energy is quiet and luminous, not blazing like fire, but warm like embers, steady, gentle, enduring. In the silence of the heart, God speaks. Mother Teresa tonight, if you listen long enough, you will hear that beat, not merely a sound, but presence. No name is needed, for it is you, undistorted, unhurt, undefinable, simply existing. Let tonight be a wordless dialogue between you and yourself. No prayers required, only presence. Because sometimes simply sitting and listening is already the beginning of healing. In silence we learn to listen, but only through patience do we truly understand. In this life, there is no shortage of people who know how to begin. only a shortage of those who know how to wait. We live in an age of speed, where everything arrives fast, leaves fast, and makes us believe that everything of value should come just as quickly. But true growth never blooms in haste. It unfolds quietly in the dark, like roots beneath the earth, digging deep long before the flower ever meets the sun. Seneca once said, "It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness." The rough road always leads to the peaks. So if your path feels uneven, know this: you are on the right one. Nothing precious comes easily.
Nothing lasting is born in a rush.
Beauty takes time, and time asks for faith. But patience isn't just waiting. It's how you behave while you wait. Some wait with worry, some wait in doubt. And then there are those who wait with peace, because they understand that everything unfolds in its own perfect rhythm. Like the seasons, you cannot force a flower to bloom early. All you can do is tend the soil, water it, and trust. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Lao Tzu, nature never rushes, yet nothing is left undone. And we too are part of that rhythm. If we learn to slow down, we'll see that what we fear is not here yet is actually on its way. Quietly, patiently, perfectly timed. Patience is the hardest lesson because it demands humility before time. It asks us to release control and to trust instead. And trust is the most courageous act of the soul. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." The universe is always shifting and we cannot hold it still, but we can choose how we see it. If we believe that everything happens for our growth, then every fall, every delay, every unfulfilled dream becomes part of a beautiful design we just can't see yet. There are nights you ask yourself, why haven't I succeeded yet?
Why am I not at peace? Why isn't my life where I want it to be?
But maybe the universe isn't saying no. Maybe it's simply saying, not yet. Because some things require you to become someone else before you can hold them. And the process, however slow or tiring, is where that transformation happens. Patience doesn't mean sitting still. It means moving forward, step by step, with the quiet faith that each step matters.
Even when you can't yet see the result, you don't need to know what's coming.
Only that you're walking in the right direction. And when you move with calm intention, every destination starts to feel closer. Have patience.
All things are difficult before they become easy. Sadi Shirazi, everything great begins in awkwardness.
No one is born knowing, only those who stay long enough to learn. Bamboo spends 4 years growing roots, and only after that does it shoot up dozens of feet in a few weeks. What you're doing now may not have flowers yet, but the roots are spreading, quietly, deeply, faithfully. Tonight, if you feel like you're behind, remember, you're not falling behind, you're growing deeper. And the things that take time to build are the ones that last the longest. One day, when you look back, you'll see every moment of waiting
Was worth it. You're not falling behind.
You're growing deeper, and everything deep takes time to become still. We live in a world obsessed with instant result, where people flaunt their success but hide their struggle. We see the light, but forget the flame once flickered on the edge of going out. And then we ask ourselves, why am I not there yet?
What's wrong with me? Nothing. There's nothing wrong.
You simply move at your own rhythm. The universe doesn't measure your path by speed, but by the depth your soul reaches along the way. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything that happens as it should, and if you observe carefully, you will find this to be so. Everything happens exactly as it should, if only we're still enough to see it. Some lessons only make sense once we've walked far enough. Some losses only reveal their gifts years later, and the process itself, is the greatest gift of all. Because within it, you don't just find success, you find yourself. Patience isn't waiting for a miracle. It's doing what needs to be done, even when no one notices. It's believing in the small things, in quiet steps, in ordinary mornings. Because maybe those nothing special days are the very moments life is quietly turning toward you. Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. Martin Luther King Jr. Faith isn't certainty. It's choosing to move even when the path isn't fully lit. It's trust without evidence, but full of soul. Faith doesn't promise arrival. It promises you won't fall apart on the way. There's a quiet beauty to true patience. It doesn't try to control. It simply stays. It doesn't demand results. It just does what's right.
Moment by moment, because often the moment we stop chasing,
everything we've been running after finds its way back to us. Like when you stop trying to catch the wind, you realize it was always there, waiting for you to be still enough to feel it. Rivers know this. There is no hurry. We shall get there someday. A. Milner River never hurries, yet it always reaches the sea, because it never doubts the journey, and neither should you.
You don't have to know what tomorrow holds.
Just trust that everything is leading you where you're meant to be, even if it takes the long, winding way around. Faith isn't forced optimism. It's a quiet knowing that no matter what happens, you'll be okay, not because the world gets easier, but because you've grown strong enough to stand within it. The obstacle is the path. Zen proverb, obstacles aren't beside the road, they are the road. And patience is walking that road, step by step, without losing heart. Tonight, if you feel lost along the way, don't try to see too far ahead. Just look down to your next step, and take it, then another.
And another. Because no one ever moves too slowly as long as they keep moving.
And when you've held that rhythm long enough, dawn will come. Not with thunder, but with a soft light, brushing your eyelids, like the universe whispering, "Thank you for not giving up." The obstacle is the path, but there is a more dangerous obstacle than a cliff. Not a fall, but a soft pillow. Comfort is the sweetest liar. It whispers, "You've done enough. You deserve a rest. You don't have to try so hard." And we believe it. We stop, a little slower, then slower still, until we no longer remember what we once wanted. Modern life doesn't need a war to make people lazy. It only needs a comfy chair, a bright screen, and a little dopamine. Each tap, each short clip, is a piece of momentum stolen. We call it entertainment, but sometimes it's just postponement wrapped in fine packaging. Comfort is the enemy of progress. P.T. Barnum, comfort isn't evil, but when we lean on it too long, it becomes velvet-wrapped chains. The temptation to rest always arrives at the worst possible time, right when you begin to make progress. When the body gets used to discipline, when the mind has just pushed through procrastination, that voice appears. "Come on, take today off." But do you know? Every compromise steals a little of your self-respect.
No one sees it. No one judges.
But inside, a piece of trust goes out. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" Whenever you're about to let go, ask, is this needed? Is this rest because I'm truly tired, or am I trying to run away? Is this pause necessary, or am I afraid to move forward? The difference is in motive, not action.
Rest because you're worn, that's necessary.
Rest because you're lazy, that's losing yourself. There is a kind of fatigue that doesn't come from doing too much, but from doing too little that matters. When you have no aim, comfort becomes the bed of forgetfulness. You think you're living easily, but actually you're slowly drifting away from yourself. The easy road becomes hard, and the hard road becomes easy. Les Brown, the easy path becomes hard to live with. The hard path grows easier the longer you walk it. The danger of the temptation to rest is that it doesn't hurt. It's gentle, pleasant, and reasonable. But because it sounds reasonable, it kills the brightness inside you. No one collapses from a single lazy day, but thousands of just one more day are enough to turn a once burning soul to cold ash. Seneca warned, while we waste our time hesitating and postponing,
life is slipping away. While we delay, life moves on.
Time is not angry. It simply takes each opportunity we do not use. Comfort does not require hatred to be resisted.
It only needs to be loved for too long.
When you love ease, you lose the courage to change. And when you stop changing, you begin to die, even while your body still breathes. Tonight, if you lie in softness and hear the small voice whispering, maybe you should get up. Listen to it. No need for a grand gesture, just rise.
A small action, but it's the beginning of revival. No one falls apart from a single lazy day.
But thousands of just one more day are enough to turn a once fiery soul into cold ash. Some people lose themselves not in tragedy, but in gentleness. Not because they were hurt, but because they stopped moving. Rest is necessary, truly, but living forever in rest is self-imprisonment. After too long, the soft bed becomes manacles. No one physically ties you, but you bind yourself with cozy habits. Comfort makes us forget what living feels like.
Have you noticed?
That moment you finish something hard, your heart races, hands tremble, sweat on your skin, and inside, something feels truly alive. That is the soul speaking. I am still here. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Every time you open your eyes, you have the chance to choose yourself again. Choose wakefulness instead of drifting. Choose action instead of waiting. Choose the hard instead of the easy. Not because you seek suffering, but because you understand. Only challenge makes you feel alive. Comfort lulls you into a soft sleep. But if you sleep too long, you stop dreaming. Dreams come to those who are awake in their lives. Those who sink into ease only dream other people's lives. Do what is easy and your life will be hard. Do what is hard and your life will be easy. Les Brown, do the easy and life becomes hard. Choose the hard and life becomes easier. And the hardest thing is to keep choosing what is right, even when it feels uncomfortable. You don't need to wait for inspiration to begin. Inspiration does not come before action. It is born from action, like a flame that only flares when you rub sticks together. If you sit waiting until you feel warm, you will freeze in the long night. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Nothing great is made overnight. It is built from 1,000 small days with repeated choices. Get up, keep going, don't quit." There is a strange truth. The more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you discover true ease. Because then you are no longer bound by the fear of losing out. You face fear and realize it's only the shape of what you imagined. The pain of discipline is nothing like the pain of regret. Unknown The pain of discipline is brief. The pain of regret can last a lifetime. Knowing this, each time you choose rightly, you rescue yourself from future sorrow. Tonight, if you are tired, rest, but don't leave the path. Sit down, take a deep breath, and continue tomorrow, because rising again is always worth more than another hour of sleep. Comfort will keep calling you in a soft tone. It will invite you to sit back saying, "Just a little more? Then I'll start." But if you listen long enough, you'll hear another voice, smaller, truer. Begin right now, and if you follow it, everything will change. Getting up one more time will always be worth more than sleeping one more time. And perhaps that's what defines the steadfast. Not those who never fall, but those who never quit. Hardship doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to ask one question. Do you truly want what you say you want? Because words are easy, but only actions in the storm prove faith. And sometimes storms don't come to break you. They come to wash away what isn't real. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. What happens to you doesn't define you. How you respond, that's what does." You can see hardship as punishment or as initiation, a test from life itself. To see if you can still hold your light when the night arrives. There will be days when you feel empty. No drive, no faith.
As if everything is against you, but if you still stand, still breathe slow,
Still do what's right, even when you feel nothing, then that is your strongest moment. Not because you're overflowing with energy, but because you no longer need energy to move forward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Strength is not in controlling the world, but in keeping your mind calm within it." Once you learn that, the storm is no longer an enemy until it becomes your training ground. Steadfastness isn't the absence of fear. It's the courage to continue despite fear. Fear is natural. Quitting is a choice. Each of us has a mountain to climb.
no one can climb yours for you.
Sometimes you think you're lost, but really you're just at a turn others haven't reached yet. Seneca once said, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men. Fire doesn't burn, it forges. It turns soft metal into steel, a fragile heart into something unshakable, and a trembling soul into one that can stand still in chaos." Sometimes, steadfastness isn't about moving far. It's about not abandoning yourself.
Not rejecting who you are in pain. Not running from the moment because it isn't beautiful yet. Because you know, every storm passes.
And when it does, the sky is clearer. And so are you. When you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. Haruki Murakami, hardship never leaves you as it found you. It either makes you bitter or it makes you deep. And you choose which. If you choose to learn, to understand, to rise even when weak, then every loss becomes fuel for rebirth. Tonight, if you find yourself in the storm, remember, storms don't come to stay. They come to remind you you're still alive, still growing, and still capable of becoming stronger. You don't need to fight, just stand. Because sometimes standing is victory, standing still is victory, but sometimes the hardest thing is not standing, it's standing in faith, because after every storm, when the world calms down, what lingers isn't thunder, it's the emptiness that follows. The silence after struggle feels strange, Not painful, but not peaceful yet, as if the soul is relearning how to breathe after holding its breath for too long. And in that silence, a question rises. Why do I keep going? Not for the reward, not to be seen, but because you once promised yourself you wouldn't stop. That's the essence of steadfastness, a quiet promise, a belief that doesn't need witnesses. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom doesn't mean being free of struggle. It means not being ruled by it. When you stay steadfast, it doesn't mean you're never tired. It means you choose to continue even when tired, not because you're stronger than others, but because you've realized each time you rise, you're reborn. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Japanese proverb, fall 7 times, rise 8.
It's not about numbers, and it's about spirit.
The spirit of those who refuse to let their story end with a full stop. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Hardship doesn't break you. How you see it, that's what weakens you. If you see it as misfortune, you suffer. You see it as a lesson, you grow. The same wound, 2 different souls. Some survive pain but turn bitter.
Others survive and turn kind.
Not because they no longer feel, but because they've learned nothing is worth losing peace over. Steadfastness doesn't mean endless forward motion. Sometimes it means pausing to breathe, then continuing. No one expects you to be strong every day. Some days, steadfastness simply means not giving up. And that's enough. Seneca said sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Sometimes just living another day is courage itself. We measure strength by success, but forget those who fight quietly each day just to still be themselves. No applause,
No recognition.
yet they are the truest warriors of persistence. To be steadfast is to rise, not to prove anything, but to honor your own soul. Because you know, if you abandon yourself today,
No one else can save you. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. What blocks your path is the path.
there are no wrong turns, only turns whose meaning you haven't yet understood. And one day, when you look back, you'll see every stumble aligned into a straight road back to yourself. Tonight, if you're weary, don't look for the full light. Just hold on to one small spark, enough to see your next step. Because the greatest light doesn't come from the sky, but from within the heart of the one who refused to give up. The storm has passed, the ground is still wet, but I've learned how to stand. Perhaps true victory was never about wealth, fame, or glory, but that quiet moment when you look into the mirror and finally see someone you can trust. Throughout this journey, you've walked through pain, confusion, silence, patience, and loneliness. You thought you were searching for something grand, a purpose, a peak, an answer. But in the end, what you found was simply yourself, whole and real. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And when you learn to keep your mind clear, even when the world around you turns dark, that's when you realize victory isn't about outcomes. It's about inner state. No one can take peace away from the one who created it within. No hardship can defeat the one who has accepted himself. And no failure can destroy the one who knows everything happens for a reason. The real prize was never the goal. It was who you became along the way. Indeed, the true reward was never the destination. Why? It was the person you became on the way there. The one who learned to feel pain without turning bitter. The one who fell and still smiled. The one who isn't perfect, but is honest with themselves. That is victory. True victory needs no audience. It isn't loud. It comes without fireworks or applause. It's just a morning you wake up, look around, and quietly know you're okay. Not because everything is good, but because you no longer need everything to be good. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." And you see, everything great takes time. But the greatest of all is the peace born from self-respect. You no longer need validation because you've already validated yourself. Some seek victory at the end of the road, but you found it in every step, in how you kept going through exhaustion, in how you kept your promises when no one was watching, in how you chose gentleness over bitterness, in how you stood still in chaos and still kept your faith. That is true victory, because you didn't conquer anyone, you conquered your own fear. A man conquers the world by conquering himself. Zeno of Citium, the one who truly conquers the world, is not the one who commands others, but the one who governs his own mind. When you can sit in darkness, smile, and whisper, "I am still me," that is when you have won. Tonight, you don't need to look for answers. You don't need to ask, "What's next?" Just sit still, take a deep breath,
And know this, you've been through it all.
and you're still here. That is victory. I've walked through storms, through pain, through silences so long I thought I had lost my voice, but I'm still here, not to win, but to live truthfully. Maybe true victory was never about standing above, but standing within peace. No more comparison, no more proving, no more craving to be understood, just an ordinary morning. You open your eyes and feel no need to fix yourself. Not because you're perfect, but because you've made peace with your imperfections. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you,
And love the people with whom fate brings you together. Accept what life brings. Love those it sends."
That's all. No analysis, no striving, just gratitude for still being alive enough to feel. When you no longer need to win, you finally become free, because in that moment, nothing that happens is a test anymore. It's just flow. You no longer cling, no longer fear loss. You no longer wish for calm because you've learned how to be calm within the storm. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. Unknown peace isn't the lack of waves. It's the knowing that when the waves rise, you don't have to fear them. Because you are not the wave, you are the water. And once you know that, everything inside you grows still, but not empty, just quiet and bright. True victory is when you can still open your heart after pain, still trust after betrayal, still love knowing you might lose, and still choose kindness in a world that often feels tired. That kind of courage isn't seen by many, but it's the strength that makes a soul eternal. No more running,
No more hiding. No more chasing. Just walking. Light as air, still as water.
and grounded as the earth beneath your feet. The goal is not to be better than someone else, but to be better than your former self. Dalai Lama, the goal isn't to surpass others, but to become gentler, deeper, and more authentic than yesterday. Tonight, sit for a while, Not to think, but to feel. Feel your heartbeat, feel your calm, and realize everything that once terrified you has led you here, to this stillness. No fireworks, no applause, just one person alone in the night smiling because they finally understand what it means to be alive. The real prize was never the goal. It was who you became along the way. And if you're hearing these words tonight, know this. You've come much farther than you think. You don't need to do more. Just sit still, place your hand over your heart, and whisper softly, I have come home. Lucid dream, sleep and science, stories. A journey not to find answers, but to hear your own voice again, where all sounds fade and only silence speaks. Thank you for walking this far. Sleep deeply and rest well.